What's up, boys? We're back with some more Hell Clock for the early access release. For the start here, I'll probably grab some cooldown for the dash ability. I don't think any of these are super useful. The reflexes is basically a utility skill for me, and I'll show off the build I'm trying out here in a second. So the relics are the most important thing. You have some basic gear, but you can't really influence the stats there a ton. These give you really unique skill modifiers. So my old bell skill, which is basically just the bell from Diablo 3, deals a bunch of damage based on my max mana. Every spell gains more damage based on the number of active summons. That pairs very nicely with this, which causes the bell to spawn a summon every time I use it for 7 seconds. This restores a bunch of mana whenever I use my defensive ability. Close Body gives me a bunch of ward, which is basically the same as, well, it's Conviction here. It's basically ward from last epoch. Gives you a temporary shield that decays over time. We've got 11% of damage on spells based on my Conviction to go with that. I'm not actually using the split shot thing here. This just gives a ton of mana and cooldown speed, some of my best stats. This gives each hit on my utility skill reflexes a bunch of mana, which then combines with this, hitting even more targets with +3 bounces. So tons of mana there since the bell skill spends a lot of mana. Then over here we've got the new summon ability in Act 3 will double my number of guards. Pretty cool. Some nice cooldown speed and mana regen, which are pretty important as well. So you can actually level this up and the base damage on them will scale up, although the cooldown will get a lot slower. We've got a dash here, and I think that's about it for the basics. So it's basically a speed-running Path of Exile or Diablo style game. The more enemies you kill, the more trinkets you get, and also gold will be used for upgrades as well, so you'll become stronger in the long run, but you have a bit of a limited timer. Let's see, you have a limited number of slots on each of your skills, so you want to go for very efficient things for them. Unfortunately, none of these are amazing stats for them. For the utility daggers, we kind of want to hit more targets or more bounces or something. I guess I will take the duration here. You also gain a little bit of a bonus. You can see the global buffs. That gives me global damage, 2%, not huge. Physical resistance, kind of nice for survivability. I think that's the best with life and mana. Cooldown speed and skill mana cost are not bad either, but I guess we'll just take that. So sometimes you don't actually want to take epics if they're not super relevant to how you're building your character due to the limited slots on them. So for the bell and the spirits, we want to focus very heavily on damage. A lot of the bosses later into the run are very bullet spongy, so Catholic guard damage is very good. Even though we have a rare there, I think this is one of the best ones we can get for that, since those are a big part of my single target damage. So far, my early glances at Act 2, I feel like the game is probably a solid 8 out of 10 for me. There's a few weird quality of life issues, stuff like extremely long loading screens, which don't really impact the basic gameplay. They only really happen at the end of a run, but having like 10+ second load screens sometimes is kind of weird. There are some weird audio issues, but I think they have been fixed already, so that's not too bad. Here, I feel like early movement speed pays off in the long run with the timer. If we can get some percentage mana, that's extremely good. I also have an upgrade on the little skill tree in the base. Oh yeah, the new bird enemies, they fly around in the sky for like a good 5+ seconds sometimes. And in a game all about speed running, that feels pretty annoying, I feel like. Like those guys are just completely unhittable over there until they land. So we'll run around killing some other stuff and they're still not landing. Kind of annoying. The trinkets and gold and stuff has a very low pickup radius. So I feel like I have to constantly backtrack to get all that, so you don't really leave anything behind. Critical damage for one of my main skills is the best we can do here. Area on that's not bad. It does help you land the hits. Yeah, can't hit the birds. Treasured goblin. And then as you're progressing through the new Act 2, there are these weird like progression gates throughout the game. Attack speed is very good. Let's grab that. Like, the first time you get to floor 10, the run will just automatically end. And then the first time you get to floor 13, I think, the run will automatically end. And then the first time you get to floor 16, it will automatically end. And I think that was my previous run. So hopefully we can actually complete a full run now. But also the bosses are getting so bullet spongy and they aren't particularly interesting. They're just kind of the same fights, but the entire fight takes like 3+ minutes of very high single target DPS to even get through. So I just feel myself sort of falling asleep during them. Like, my build is very, very single targets, with the huge number of summons doing tons of percentage damage. Let's see, we have a copy of that, I think. 90 conviction on kill, I have one of those. So we have one of each of these. I think I'll probably just look for a good roll on that one. That one's pretty important for what I'm trying to do. Mana cost, that will help us spam it out a bit more. It's not the most important, because when you run out of mana, you'll actually start using your basic attack. Mana to damage conversion sounds good there. And the basic attack actually generates 15% of your maximum mana every time it hits. So just weaving in a few of those usually lets you spam a lot more skills anyways. So attack speed is pretty solid since you're filling in with a pretty good generator even when you can't use them anyways. I can probably turn sound effects back up a bit. Like I said, there was this weird bug with the sound and the level ups were extremely loud right after the release, but they're supposed to have fixed that by now, hopefully. Cooldown is decent. Area of effect, that's just for the little retaliation thing, which isn't super important, I think. We're looking for like cooldown and decay, or ward decay resistance, I think, to keep more shield on that, so I'll just get some extra dash speed for now. You can re-roll them for money, but I feel like if there's something even remotely decent, it's probably more efficient to just save your money for the permanent stat increases at the shrines on each level anyways. You're going to be getting a ton of levels throughout a run, so I may as well just take anything decent instead of just trying to optimize that and probably just wasting gold anyways. So yeah, tiny pickup radius on that stuff. Feel like that could be improved a bit in a game that's all about speedrunning. Feels kind of weird constantly having to backtrack to pick up all of that stuff. Area of effect on that isn't the greatest for killing bosses. It's kind of nice early on, so this will help more with bosses, but I feel like just getting the huge AoE pretty early into the run is actually pretty helpful in the long term. That will give us a lot better sort of AoE grinding throughout the run, and I think that'll save us a lot of time even though it's not the greatest for killing bosses. But if I found that upgrade late into the run, I think I would pass it up for that reason. Rare attack speeds. Very nice. We're definitely not going to be able to fully sustain the bell attack with all of that. Stupid birds. And yeah, with how bullet spongy the bosses are, I try to just always grab all of the side stuff and then hope I have enough time left anyways, because some of them are just a nightmare to slog through, I feel like. But I feel like the minor issues I have with the game currently are pretty easy to fix. So I don't think it will take much to bring the game up to like a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 to be honest. So the spirits are actually physical damage, so I think a lot of my single target is physical now, and mana is one of the best in slot we can do, so easy choice there. Also, a lot of the time when you left click on the chest and there's enemies nearby, it just won't let you open that sometimes. Again, just a very small issue that shouldn't be too hard to fix. Oh, rage duration. That's actually interesting with the doubled amount I have from that relic. I've never seen that before. Knife bounce amount is one of the best we can get for that, but we already have 3 from the relic, so I think we're fine to take that. Just have an absolutely insane amount of spooky, scary spirit thins. Send shivers down your spine. They've added a whole new constellation system, which I have just unlocked in the base, and it's honestly basically the same as the Grim Dawn system in, well, Grim Dawn, the constellation system in there. That would actually be pretty fun, but we're pretty far off of that. Cooldown speed's very good. I think I will take that. 100% attack speed would let us have so many spirits out, and then I wouldn't have much of a downside since we gain extra damage from having more spirits out, and the attack speed would sort of feed into that. So we would actually mitigate part of the downside on that, so that actually would be pretty cool to get at some points. So I think the first run, you actually just end the run there. Have a copy of that. Ooh, that sounds interesting. Bombardment is a new Act 2 skill that is... It sounds like Bombardment from Diablo 3, basically. Automatically fires for every 13 meters you move. Ooh, okay, that sounds like there's a cool summon synergy for that, and I don't have a copy of that. So I have another relic that causes Holy Rosary to cast on every summon I have, but I believe it's basically a spender like the bell, but if we can auto-cast it for just moving around, that actually adds an interesting synergy to it, okay. Oh, so I guess you might end the run at the 7th floor as well, then? Yeah, a lot of weird, like, progression gates that I don't really feel add anything to the game there. Well, it's kind of a lore thing, I think. Honestly, I've kind of just been skipping through all of the lore in games recently. Ooh, guard damage, we need that. Basically, I play so many different games, it feels like I basically have to skip through the lore as I'm like trying them out and doing my early first impressions on them, just so that I have time to get through everything. And then sometimes I go back and take a look at it for the games that I really like later on. I wonder if I could replace the dash for something else with even more damage. I guess that might be doable if I get a bit more movement speed. We get that relic I just saw there. But then also, I wonder if dashing around triggers the movement effects. But maybe if we can stack some movement speed with that, could be pretty cool. And just have a higher damage spell, like the Rosary, instead of the dash, and just have a ton of movement speed. That might actually be worth trying. Cooldown speed's quite good. If we're going to see that every time, then I might actually want to save for that. But also, more double guards? That sounds really fun. Can I see the current cooldown on that? I think that's the base amount. So we're probably under half of that. I'll do a bit more. Let's see, it said 32.25, right? Yeah. So it might be nice if there was a way to see the current cooldown on those as well. Since we're at about 1/3 of that now. Probably about 13, 14 seconds or so. So about 50% uptime on the enrage thing for them now. Okay, looks like that was a dead end. Oopsie. We're actually almost sustaining that. I think with the extra mana generation on the skills, that's fully sustainable, but I do want to get that 100% attack speed at some point, just to have a truly insane number of spirits out. Cooldown for the dash. I think we'll take critical damage on the bell. Try and maximize that damage so the bosses won't be too much of a pain. Critical damage is good. Guard cooldown is fun. Yeah, let's do some more of that. So I'd gain a decent amount of base damage. About 116, I think. The projectile mount is very nice for some skills. I think it only works on the daggers out of the ones here. So it gives me a bit of mana regen, but not a ton for my main DPS, I think. So this would probably help quite a bit with bosses. That's a tough choice. That would be so cool for the other skills. I feel like you should be able to like have multiple of these in the base at least, but you kind of have to choose. And I think I am going to take the base damage there. I guess ideally we would just find a very high level version of the extra projectiles thing, so I wouldn't have to really choose between those. Look at all those green dots on the minimap. Summon damage is pretty good. Oh, this is something we equip. It does still sound pretty good. Oh, bleed chance actually could be quite good here. So apparently it's like a stacking damage over time that's irrelevant of your base damage. Honestly, I'm down to try one of those. I think you can see the stat for it in here somewhere. Fixed proportion of your base damage does not rely on the damage of the skill that caused it. And I believe it stacks up. Yeah, any number of simultaneous bleed stacks active at a time. So that would be very, very good with a fast hitting skill like Summon the Guard. I think. It sounds like it would be good mechanically. So another floor where you're forced to like end the run until you've done the level one time. There's also a bit of an issue with the player's skill effects. I don't know if there's an option for that. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. But basically, when you have very fast attack speed, the bell and skills like that will just completely cover up smaller enemies, and you can't see anything under them also. Like, you can't even see that guy other than his health bar there. And again, very high single target build with a huge number of summons all blasting him at the same time. And this isn't even close to the final floor yet, and you can see we're at like probably 30 seconds for that, and they get way tankier. So I think that's probably the best. Pretty similar to that, but it applies to every hit, regardless of your crit chance. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention about the constellation system. It feels like you are very sort of pigeonholed into certain playstyles based on that. Basically, from the start, there are 3 different branching directions you can go to. And the caster style is all about mana and lightning damage. So you are kind of pigeonholed into those kind of stats, which is fine for me currently. But I feel like it might limit build diversity a bit. They could probably allow you to branch off into slightly more directions or something. Like, slightly more different stat options, I feel like. The dexterity path is kind of attack speed and avoiding all enemy hits. And then the strength side is like life and I forget what else. But you actually can do sort of a tanky life build now, I think. There's a new relic I found that restores a percentage of your life on, I think, melee critical strikes. So you actually can stack life and get some decent in-combat recovery now, whereas that was pretty limited before this early access release. Crit damage is good. Conviction on activation is pretty good on that as well. But let's pump the damage here to help with the bosses. Yeah, the pickup radius is really small. Cooldown by 2% on kill. That can help a little bit on bosses, but I don't think it's huge, so 9,000 for that would be pretty expensive. Let's skip the physical damage for now, and then we should be able to get a 9,000 thing on the next one. Hopefully. What exactly does the protection shrine do? 100%... Oh, damage resistance and crowd control. Kind of laggy with that many summons, what the heck? I've been doing some summon-related builds. I haven't done this exact setup before, with like the doubled whenever you activate the rage effects, since I just got that one unlocked recently. Try and group them up for the bell AoE. Ooh, bleeds. I'm curious to see how good that will be. Might be better, but it sounds interesting with the huge horde of summons at least. Catholic Guard damage and cooldown are both fantastic. We'll go here to maximize the damage. Probably gonna have to turn my graphics down a bit for future runs. I'm not gonna mess with the settings in the middle of a run, I feel like, just in case. But that is so many guards, my god. And I did do it to myself, but I mean, it sounded so cool, I had to do it. So is it really my fault? Also, I feel like I'm sometimes activating my skills when they're not on cooldown, and then they're kind of not responding there sometimes. Like, it's sometimes taking me a couple presses even when they're not on cooldown. Oh, we're actually almost out of time here. I'll have to ignore some stuff, actually. Oh, we need to go up here. Can we check this? Alright, big attack speed, let's try it. Oh, I think this is the deepest boss I've fought so far. But he is absurdly tanky, so I'm kind of going to, like, lose focus and not be able to dodge everything just because the fight takes so long. So I'm going to just base tank most of his skills, and if I don't have the stats, then oh well. I'll dodge his big slam attack, but other than that, I'm not going to bother because it just takes so long, even with my absurd single target damage. Oh my god. The FPS is getting so bad. I think we've broken the FPS. There's so many summons, they're like running around the map, not even able to attack him. That is crazy. Just look at the dots on the minimap. Yeah, like, think about how high my single target damage is and how many upgrades I took purely for, like, the absolute maximum damage. And he doesn't really, like, change up the fight or anything as he gets lower on HP. So it's kind of just these, like, bullet sponges that I just feel are kind of boring for the boss fights. Like, most builds aren't going to be anywhere near as much damage as 30 different summons all shooting him at the same time. And I think there are more bosses after this, but this is the furthest I've been so far. So yeah, I have a copy of that. We could try to get a better roll on one of those. Oh, that sounds pretty cool. Alright, let's maybe get one of those just in case. Guard cooldown is fine. but it's also kind of laggy with the absurd number. Let's go for the maximum, like, upfront damage and not build into stats that will increase the lag too much, I guess. The game is already struggling with my build. I might not have enough time now anyways. I'm gonna have to tweak the graphic settings and possibly my build a bit as well. We have fully broken the game at this point and I can barely play. Oh my god, what is happening? Dash cooldown. We'll take the guard damage here, I think. Bleed damage would be nice. We're close to the end. Let's try and reroll for something pretty good. Elemental would work on just the bell, I think. Not the greatest. I guess crit chance. We could do one more since this is probably the final floor for me. Alright, crit chance is probably the best then. Let's pull a bunch of them together and then AoE them down with the bell. Oh my god. I might have to drop the thing that doubles them. That thing is getting really silly now. I guess we did get one more crit damage, sure. Oh, I'm actually at a new boss wave. I don't think I've been this far yet. Yeah, I think the last run ended right after I killed the bird on the previous boss floor. I hope I can face tank this boss because I don't know if I can dodge everything with how laggy it's getting. You can see my abilities are bugging out hard as well. Like, it took me 3 presses to get the E off there, I think. Maybe there's some sort of issue with, like, the cooldown display or something? Jesus. Yeah, I just really like to see bosses be a bit less bullet spongy. There's such an absurd number of spirits constantly blasting this guy and stacking bleeds on him. And it's this slow. 17. There might actually be some more floors after that. I think the first act, if they can make these damage areas go away a bit faster after a boss is dead, that would be nice. I think the first act went up to like 21 floors now, maybe?
Agora só nos falta uma patente.
Se ama cotas, acho melhor a dona voltar para casa.
E desde quando professora tem medo de ministro? Eu sei me defender, homem.
So it looks like there's one more boss. I don't think we'll make it, especially with how laggy we're getting already. But I'm kind of having to skip a lot of stuff since I don't have enough meta progression yet, it looks like. And we're also just completely breaking the game now. This is getting almost unplayable, unfortunately. Cool build, the game engine can't quite seem to keep up with it. But I also am on, I think, ultra settings right now since I've never had an issue with the game before. So I'm definitely going to turn that down probably at least 2 ticks. And we'll give the build another shot at some point. See how bad it is. So I think that's actually the first time I've run out of time. We got some good relics, a lot of soul stones and levels for the meta progression. So we did make some progress. Oh, I should have looked at the skill breakdown there. But you can see how long the loading screens are. Again, it really only happens at the end of a run and starting up a run. But it is a bit annoying. And I'll show you my current meta progression once we get through this. So I do have a few points into some random stuff. I don't think it's that big of a difference that I'm going to respec everything. We could get a bit more damage with maximum skill level over there. Cooldown reduction and movement speed are pretty good. We got some new unique relics that are pretty nice as well, so we can go like this. Attack speed's very good as well, so pretty good upgrades there. Pretty efficient levels. I could move some of that stuff over there, but kind of a hassle to respec, I feel like. Probably not the biggest difference. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the current Act 2 and my meta progression, the game in general. We'll need to turn down and adjust the graphic settings a bit, but I haven't had any issues before the absolutely insane doubling with the new relic over here. Double the amount of guards for 7 seconds. That got really silly combined with the bell thing, it seems like, and a lot of cooldown reduction. But that's going to be it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.